Hello, my name's Michael Conneely, and this video is about the powerful and very long-running Chiron Eris conjunction. And it also taps into the benefits that are given when both Vedic astrology and Western astrology are applied to what's going on now. And indeed, what's going on now will call for healing to be done if the Chiron Eris conjunction affects you. So it gets a little tiny bit technical at times, but bear with it and it all becomes clear. So Chiron is the wounded healer, and Eris asteroid is the goddess of strife and discord. Now their energy together, impact can be huge on us if it affects, a planet in our natal chart. We absolutely need to recognize the power of the combination in our consciousness and in our life if the Chiron Eris conjunction is affecting us now and for this long-running time. But there's actually a second factor which Western astrology knows nothing of, and we need to know about, and that is that Chiron and Eris are now in one of the three Vedic Astrology Gandanta Zones. These are zones of complete immateriality and unsupportedness. If you've got a planet there, it's crucial to know. If you're affected by the Chiron Eris conjunction that's so long running in the heavens now, you need to know that you may be called to deeply experience your wounds. You may be called for these to surface now. And you need to realize that this is actually a call to healing now. So please do read on. It's crucial for you to know if this long-running conjunction of Chiron and Eris affects you. Now, the three Gandanta zones might sound a little bit technical, but know that the three Gandanta zones power is huge, really huge, if it affects one of your planets. And the Chiron Eris conjunction is in one of the three Gandanta zones, and so Chiron and Eris energies are massively affected by Gandanta energy now and for many months. So please do, read on, listen on. A special note, well, the astrological detail is a tiny bit technical, but it's so worth knowing about. And this post does build to examples of the way you can find healing from these even dreadful energies of woundedness that can arise in you if you're affected by the conjunction. So please do read on. Now, I always combine Vedic astrology and Western astrology in all my readings and courses. And this is for the truest and most complete statement of the astrological energies affecting you. And a very important thing to know is that for 11 months, the Chiron Eris conjunction, whose use is normally restricted just to Western astrology, is in a key power location defined by Vedic astrology, namely one of the three Gandanta zones. The location of the Chiron Eris conjunction now is actually in the Pisces to Aries transition point, that Gandanta zone. So the three Gandanta zones are one of the absolutely key need to know about factors from Vedic astrology. They are the water sign to fire sign transition points, and that's using Vedic astrology's sidereal zodiac. And we need to know that these three zones are zones of totally unsupportedness. Chiron and Eris conjunction is in one of them now, and it's where the sign Pisces transitions into Aries. And the Gandanta zones, as I said, are where this world is felt to be completely unsupportive. But we need to know also that actually working with this feeling that this world is so unsupportive can be, if we realise it, a gateway to the divine. It's a gateway where healing and connection to the divine can be found if the gateway is opened by us and if we hear it's there. It's also a gateway, as it were, to the God realm, because, of course, Vedic astrology is linked to Hinduism, which, like Tibetan Buddhism, is tantric. And so the immaterial and the unsupportiveness can be as much a gateway to the divine as a very supported setting for your life. And Chiron Eris conjunction is actually a dreadful gift of pain and anger and injustice, and it's there now. But that means its potential for healing is there now, if only we know about this and if only we can achieve it now. So do listen on and understand the depth of the challenge and, well, the actual wonderful reward, especially if you have a planet where Chiron Eris now transit, or a planet in your birth chart now aspected by them. So if this conjunction of Chiron and Eris asteroids affect you, particularly if it strongly aspects one of your natal planets, you will on and off feel a lot of prevailing chaos and confusion, wound or grief. But we have to learn to see that this is actually a call to healing. And if we can do the call to healing, if we can do the healing, well, we will then encounter and express our greatest strength. So this Chiron Eris in the Gandanta will bring our deep-seated wounds to the surface of our consciousness, particularly if Chiron Eris now aspects one of our planets. In other words, particularly a planet that carries a deep wound of ours. So the time scale is this. The first exact Chiron Eris conjunction occurred May the 27th, 2025. The second Chiron Eris conjunction occurred October the 9th, 2025. And the third exact conjunction will occur on March the 19th, 2026. The influence of this long-running astrological aspect is felt most strongly when the two bodies are within a 1-degree orb. Namely, in fact, that period from May the 3rd, 2025 to April the 10th, 2026. But it's useless just reveling in the woundedness feeling. We have to realise that the divine healing purpose of this is for us to work to bring in healing, for us to create empathy and compassion, for us to create authenticity, for us to transform our hurt or anger or grief into sacred healing energy. We need to recognise this and do the work to manifest it. So the Chiron Eris conjunction is currently Chiron at 23 Western Aries, Eris at 24 Western Aries. And in the Vedic sidereal zodiac, this is Chiron at 29 degrees of Vedic Pisces and Eris at 1 degree Vedic Aries. So you see the Pisces to Aries, water to fire sign transition. That's where the Chiron Eris is now. And of course, that means that the Chiron Eris conjunction is now deep in one of the 3 Gandanta zones of Vedic astrology, namely the transition from Pisces to Aries. And I can tell you that the other 2 Gandanta zones of immateriality and unsupportedness, transition points from water sign to fire sign, are Cancer to Leo, Vedic astrology, and Scorpio to Sagittarius, Vedic sidereal zodiac. Cancer to Leo and Scorpio to Sagittarius. If you have a planet in one of the 3 Gandanta zones, know that this takes away the solid supportiveness of that planet. So it takes away the solid supportiveness for the person who has the planet there in the Gandanta zone in their birth chart. But know, or come to know, that the lack of earthly supportiveness can form a gateway to contact with the divine. So what is the nature of the woundedness we each will feel if we have one of our planets conjuncted by Chiron Eris or aspected by Chiron Eris now? Well, Chiron is the wounded healer. He essentially represents our deepest emotional wounds and traumas, often stemming from childhood. However, this can actually turn into being the source of our greatest strength, the source of our ability to heal ourselves and then to heal others. If we learn about it and do the work. The pain becomes a catalyst for growth if we grow to consciously know it and can make it a healing process. That's Chiron. Well, Eris, the goddess of strife, as she was seen by the ancient Greeks, actually offers us the breaking of our woundedness karmas. Eris brings major disruptive life changes, often carrying the nature of rebellion or discord. But we need to learn that the divine purpose of this is to bring to light for us issues of injustice or aggression or power. You see, Eris is a hidden element in our psyche, in our shadow, in our unconscious. And we need to grow up by seeing what is actually packed down into our shadow and unconsciousness, what it is that has become so self-destructive. But then we need to move on and see that their highest potential, Chiron and Eris, work together to bring our raw wound and our deep vulnerability to the surface. And we don't need to revel in that woundedness and keep going on about it. We need to know that it offers us the chance to heal, transform the pain, the anger, the injustice. So the key question is, if you are affected by this conjunction now, do you have the potential to choose higher consciousness, to recognize the detail of the suffering and manifest healing out of the suffering? If we don't know about existential wounds and their healing, our lives can include a lot of suffering, self-destruction, downfall, pain, etc. And this can seem to be our fate. We self-destruct. What is buried in our shadow and unconscious rules us, and we don't understand, we can't even define it, and we suffer repeatedly. But if we can connect to the higher guidance offered and do the healing work, and develop the truth and integrity, we will emerge a hero. Our pain will be reduced. Our pain will be managed. So we need to recognize the wound and its detail and take charge of the healing. Don't live in fear. Properly assert yourself. Value yourself. Speak your truth arising from that self-valuing. Grow your courage. Don't always yield to others or always be in aggressive denial of the wounds you carry, whatever your evasion technique is throughout your life. So Chiron is the healed masculine energy. Let me just tell you that when I started learning Vedic astrology, my wonderful tutor told me Mars is your strongest planet, but what he didn't know was that I have Chiron conjunct my Mars. But of course Chiron wasn't allowed in Vedic astrology. We need to know about Chiron. We also need to know about Eris. Eris, the asteroid of strife, is also the healer who stirs up the denial, who reveals to us what is in our shadow. And that gives truth a chance. So Eris is actually your ally and not your enemy, if only you can see that. I want to share with you that what actually prompted me to come to these realizations is that I would keep feeling really upset recently about the wounds given to me, by being born homeless, put in a convent orphanage and later in a horrible adoption. I'd even find myself sort of a bit crying about, because this stuff kept surfacing. And what seemed to prompt the surfacing was that I do aqua aerobics 3 times a week, where the wonderful teacher has wonderful background soundtracks. And I found the water and the songs unlocked the awful that was held still in my shadow. So I looked up my transits at this time and I saw that the Chiron Eris conjunction was actually right on top of my natal moon, which is at 29 degrees 56 Vedic Pisces. In other words, deep in the Pisces Aries Gandanta. And the point is that my moon is actually conjunct the awful asteroid Sedna, which indeed was borne out by my issues of mothering. And so from that, why am I feeling, why does this keep surfacing when I'm doing my aqua aerobics? I made contact with healing work. I do a session once a week. And so I made contact with ancient faces of the divine who so embody the strength qualities I need to heal that wound that was my destiny in this life. And so, I visualized and worked with the Greek goddess Hecate and the wonderful Irish god, the Dagda. Such a figure of strength. And I came to develop a spell which really did help. It involved the repetition of key phrases such as, so I'm telling you this in case this approach helps you. By the power of this spell, I am feeling well. I am thriving on my forward road. The obstacles are cancelled. When stresses come, I stand strong in my power, in my breath, in my centre. So obviously the methods of healing work are individual to the person. So I hope this astrological sharing from the combination of Western astrology and Vedic astrology, and then of possible healing approaches, one of many, will be of help to you. I hope this analysis will be helpful. And I hope that if you're feeling possibly affected by the Chiron Eris conjunction, you'll realise that the even awful wounds can be a gateway to wonderful healing. So if you think you're affected possibly by the Chiron Eris conjunction now and at this long running period, do get in touch with me for a reading which could easily be accompanied by possible healing possibilities. You can go to my Star Wheel Astrology for a reading, the Star Wheel Astrology website. And you can also see examples of the many healing methods I use in my Druid Forest School website. The links are below the video. So if this would be helpful to you, I really do look forward to our wonderful work together. Thank you.